it was probably 4 or 5 years old where I started lucid dreaming, astral projecting. I would sit up out of my body when I went to bed at night and I could fly, like pop out and cruise the hood and do all the stuff. And, it wasn't until a little while after that where I was actually having experiences that would be like off planet. So for a little while, I kind of just cruised the hood in my dreams, but I'd leave my body every night. When I started having my mom and my grandma take me to crystal stores, I'm like, Mom, the energy at this house is wrecked. I need some crystals. Like, I need to build a grid. And she's like, my kid likes rocks, so she let me do all the things. Took me to the stores. My grandma would buy me the tourmalines or the amethyst or the quartz or whatever I wanted, And so I did kind of dumb it down for a while, getting into like middle school, high school, started playing football and like wanted to be cool and all that type of stuff. And I was kind of just going to school, getting grades, going through the motions. And then 17, 18, things started just showing up and unlocking for me. And I started having questions. I just started getting downloads. I didn't even know what they were.
Brant, welcome to Elevated Conversations. I think this conversation between you and I has been a long time coming. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
It is.
I know
It's
you like
great.
to keep it low key, so
The enthusiasm that often comes from our chats, guys. But Roxy and I met Brant and Alyssa on our Egypt tour. And I'm sure people can understand. There's a lot of people on the tour. You talk to most of them, but some people you just click with. Some people are like your tribe and you light up whenever you see them. And then some, of course, you become friends with and you really feel like your soul family and they know everything about you. And I would say for you and Alyssa and maybe Shri and Anand, like we become friends. And I loved that trip. It was absolutely beautiful to experience the wonders of Egypt with you. Let's like even this start there. What brought you guys to going on a trip with Robert Grant to Egypt? I've never really exactly asked you that.
yeah. So been interested in Egypt for decades now. Kind of knew something was going on there. Always wanted to do the trip. And then I'd gotten into some of Robert's work and and he was at the Gaia doing like a ancient civilizations thing or sacred geometry. It was a sacred geometry thing. So I went. All right, I got a ticket to it. I said, Alyssa, if you're off, why don't you come? And it was the second day. The first day we just kind of left and went home. The second day he did a guided meditation, and I feel that he can see auras and he can see very well. So we kind of just opened up, did a meditation, and then we were at lunch, and he kind of just walked out into the lunchroom where everybody else was and shook my hand, like walked up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm Robert." And I'm like, "I know." And so we had lunch together and we sat down and started talking, and we got into some lady was talking about galactics and things like that. And we're at the table, and she's like, "Well, what do you think about these people and these people?" And we're talking about technology. And I said, "Well, I think Arcturian starships are some of the most advanced in the Milky Way." And Robert was like, "Yeah, they are." Like, kind of looked at me like, "How do you know that?" And then by the end of lunch, he's like, "You should come to Egypt." I'm like, "Okay." And so he went and grabbed Eden. He's like, "Yeah, just sign these guys up. Like, they don't have to do the video and stuff." I'm like, "Cool. I don't want to do a video." And we skipped the application or whatever. And Robert connected us to Eden. And we signed up. And we went to Egypt. So that's kind of do. It was a lot of things in between that and like development and knowledge and all that kind of probably brought me to that point. But that was how it unfolded in Boulder, the
Wow.
Gaia.
That's so interesting because I did the video. I had to sit there and talk about why I wanted to go and the whole thing. Felt like it was a job interview. But anyway, we made it through and not long after that, they must have liked it because then we got to interview him on our channel and have a chat like this with him. And he's like, I'm so glad you're coming to Egypt. So it's funny
Yeah.
because we didn't know we were going to meet you guys and, later become friends with Robert and have some really great, deep conversations. And often what I've noticed when you connect in with Soul Family and etc. is that often this has been with a person throughout their life, whether it's consciously or whether it's been a part of them that they've known's there, but because of like their family environment or what's going on with, let's call it, their schooling or maybe the religion they're in and around, they might be sensitive, intuitive, multidimensional, but they keep it quiet, and as they get older probably dim their light and subdue that. But as your interest in things beyond, let's just call it normal 3D through life, has that been always with you, or did it awaken as you got older?
I think both are true. Coming in, I came in, it was probably 4 or 5 years old where I started lucid dreaming, astral projecting. I would sit up out of my body when I went to bed at night and I could fly, like pop out and cruise the hood and do all the stuff. And, it wasn't until a little while after that where I was actually having experiences that would be like off planet. So for a little while, I kind of just cruise the hood in my dreams, but I'd leave my body every night. I was probably same age, 5, 6, 7, when I started having my mom and my grandma take me to crystal stores. I'm like, Mom, the energy at this house is wrecked. I need some crystals. Like, I need to build a grid. And she's like, oh, my kid likes rocks, so she let me do all the things. Like, took me to the stores, and my grandma would buy me the tourmalines or the amethyst or the quartz or whatever I wanted, and so I had my little rock collection. I was playing with that and stuff. And, so I think that I came in with it. And then as I did kind of dumb it down for a while, getting into like middle school, high school, started playing football and like wanted to be cool and all that type of stuff. And then got into music, which was really good for expressing like creativity and doing all that stuff. So by the time I was out of high school, I was getting back into music and doing all that stuff, but there was a little gap maybe between like 13, 14 and like 17 or 18. I was kind of just going to school, getting grades, going through the motions, and then 17, 18, things started just showing up and unlocking for me. And I started having questions and I just started getting downloads. I didn't even know what they were. So yeah, I guess the short answer would be a little of both there.
Yeah, bit of it sounds like more than a lot of people would talk about though, like that's pretty nuanced. And getting to know you while you're very good in, let's call it, the 3D in this world and of being successful and applying yourself and having discipline to get things done, you're also sensitive, you're tuned in, you're a deep thinker, and I've noticed that about you. But you've got this great ability to be able to dance between the two as well. It's like often I talk to people and they really hate the 3D. It's like, oh my gosh, I go outside and hope a ship will come and beam me up because I don't want to be here anymore. And they're like, I'm done with being down here. It's too hard.
Mhm.
And you seem to be able to navigate the two pretty well. Do you still have those moments though?
Yeah, man. Like, you don't come to Earth during the greatest ascension event the planet's ever seen to not party. Like, that's what we're here for. Here for the juice, man. Like, I think switching the mindset to like, oh, anything that is difficult is probably teaching me something and evolving my soul. And I probably agreed to it before I came in here, like it or not now. So like, what is this trying to teach me? What can I learn from it? And I think a lot of the problems that we have, are mostly just angle of perception.
Mm,
Like most of what we're really bummed out about and really stressed out about, other people in the world would give their left arm to have, and so I think it's not any easy. Actually, I don't think it's been any easier for me at all. We can get into that, but like I think the angle of perception about those things really helps to alchemize what we're going through, and I think most of it's based on expectations of I just want things to go so well and easy and smooth. And it's like, yeah, but that's not how you sharpen a sword. Like you don't just sit there and like you got to temper it, you got to sharpen it, and I think all of our souls are here to go through a lot of growth as a soul in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's a beautifully deep perspective on it. However, the reality growing up was like there were tough times, right? Did you guys almost get homeless, or you were, or you had to sleep in the
We-
car a few times, or like in terms of like surviving and it was just you and your mum, right? Like, is that how
yeah,
the setup?
yeah, like so it started out like um biological dad bailed on mom when she was like 8 months pregnant. She comes home to like an empty apartment. All the shit's gone. Excuse my French. All the
Yeah.
money's gone.
Yeah.
Um, and she's just like, okay, this is how that's gonna be. And then he like randomly showed up right when she was about to give birth with me. So she had a panic attack. And I guess the doctors came in and were like, hey, the baby's heart is stopping. Like you got to chill out with your anaphylactic shock, your panic attack. Like, so my grandpa, well, my mom's dad kicked my biological dad out of the hospital room because he hadn't been anywhere for like a month or a month and a half, and then he just randomly showed up. My mom's having a panic attack. My heart is stopping. And they're like, "You're gonna lose your baby if you don't calm down." But I think that was the opportunity where like this soul got to be like, "Skirt, I'm in." And so like, so like I pop in and yeah, for the first little while, like still never, other than I don't even know if it was after that day, but never met my biological dad. I think that, when you're a kid, that creates like a lot of problems, a lot of questions, a lot of anger, a lot of abandonment issues. But then also, if you take that spiritually, that turns into gold because, all these other kids are looking to their dad and looking up to him and like, I want to be like that. I want to be like that. And there's just a huge gaping hole there. There's a void there. And I started at a really young age turning within. I'm like, okay, well, like the sun is out there. Like that's pretty cool. Like I started recognizing really young these things. And so I think it actually was something that was necessary for me to sort of tune into that at a very young age. So anyway, yeah, dad's not around. Mom was really proud at times. So like my grandparents were there to help when we would need them, but things are pretty rough. Like I think I hung out my mom had a blue Subaru that I remember. I think I hung out in that thing while she like worked jobs and like for a little while, and that my mom met my stepdad when I was 5 and married him. So that's where my last name comes from. Like Faliu is actually, he adopted me when I was 5, 6 years old. And that was really cool too, to see just like an example of unconditional love. Like this person doesn't have to care about you, but they do. And with what my mom was going through and some of the choices that she was making when I was a little kid, he ended up being maybe even a little bit more of like a stable foundation for me than my mom was at times. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Because, at an early age, and of course, looking back, you get it now, but often souls like us come into experience unconditional love because that's like the substance of the universe. So,
Mhm.
very much like you, I've got the lesson of the opposite of unconditional love. It's like you do the math on when mum and dad got married, you realize it was a bit of a shotgun wedding. And it's like, I've done my plant medicine journeys. I realized mum didn't really think dad was the one, and dad wasn't 100% sure whether he was ready to, stick with her. But then I've coming into the world. So
Yep.
that energy, that rejection energy was in me before I was even born. And then, as you know, a lot of people watching this know, then at 5 or 6, I have that episode with my sister where I have to, take her to the creek. She falls off the bridge and drowns. And then I have that guilt, shame, the whole blame thing hard, right? So all a lesson
Mhm.
though for unconditional love. And we can talk about it now and go, oh wow, look at that, talk about sharpening the sword. But shit, I struggled with that for 20 years or more, 25 years of all
Mhm.
of that covertly influencing my behavior. I mean,
Mhm.
very much like you, I was good at life. Sick. I always seem to, I don't know, you know what I mean? Find
It
my
works
way,
out.
so to speak. It always seemed to work out and work out pretty well. I've had a good life. So it's amazing that you got that beautiful father figure come in for you and that support. So is that what helped to bring out your, let's call it masculine side? Because you've toured in rock bands, you've gone on to like study what money, banking, finance. You did all of that in those earlier years. So you must have felt supported in whatever it is you wanted to do, but still realized you couldn't just be off like a hippie living in a van. You wanted to make sure you had the 3D stable foundation. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's pretty fair. It's interesting because on my mom's side of my family there, I did really well in school. Like I was, in sixth grade. Before I went into seventh grade, from sixth grade, they had me take my ACTs and my SATs. I was always in like the advanced classes for learning, and they would have to take me a few grades up, to learn with those types of kids. And so there's an expectation from my mom and my grandma on my mom's side, and my grandpa on my mom's side, like, go, you need to be a doctor, like you need to be this, you need to be that. And by the end of high school, like all I wanted to do was music. I wasn't even concerned about money at all by the end of high school. And so, my mom's side of the family sits me down and like has this talk with me. You're going to burn bridges and close doors if you don't, because I'm like, why do I want to go to school? I just want to play music. And my dad on that, he just bought me a guitar and an amp, and he's like, do what you want to do, man. Like, by that point they had divorced. They divorced when my mom was 12. So it was cool to have somebody that's like, don't listen to anybody. Like do your thing. And so I did go to college for music and for business for a couple years before I got into the band that I was in that kind of toured around. But ultimately, yeah, it was nice to have somebody who one supported you and did all that, and who was not trying to put you in any sort of box. It's like you want to go snowboard, go snowboard. Like you want to go make music, So very liberating, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
So then you end up getting a job in finance. How did that come about?
Oh, that was way later, man. So, through most of my 20s, I toured in the band, like in one band and then another band. And then right before I turned 29, if like 3 or 4 months before I turned 29, that just kind of came to an end, and cycles were going, and there's band members who wanted to go this way and do this thing and do that thing. There were some arguments. And the guy who actually started the band, I almost had to kick his ass a couple times because he was getting on my nerves, and it was a lot of tension. So I walked away from that. And also I'm like 29 years old and I'm in like a metal band. Like the jeans are tight. You gotta change it up a little bit. So I left that. I had a very eventful Saturn return, um, which I don't know if we need to get into that or not, but it ended up with me jumping off a roof, getting in a fight with some cops. I got tased and then I got ketamine darted. It stopped my heart and I died for a few minutes. So I got to go like explore death for a little while, which was wonderful. Oh my gosh. Coolest 3 minutes of my life. And then after that, I was too proud to like go get a job or anything. So I just started driving Uber. But that is when I got really big into Dispenza's manifestation meditations. So I'd wake up every morning and meditate, got to feel the feeling of gratitude. You got to feel like you already have it, or it's not going to. I'm like, let's play with this, right? So I've been driving Uber like a year, and I made like $68,000, right? To this will have relevance. I'm not trying to
Oh, that's
flex
pretty
on
good for an Uber
68 grand.
driver.
I did okay. Like I paid my bills. I had no taxes. I set it up like a business. So, I wrote everything off and all that. So, and I did that for like a year and a half. And then I started meditating. Okay, if this works, why don't I write down on the paper, like draw the little B with the squiggly lines? Dispenza's got a book called Becoming Supernatural.
Mhm.
And before I ever went to any meditation retreats there, I didn't have the money to at that point. So I just read the book. So I drew like, okay, what things am I gonna have? Just trying to manifest a job. What things are what feelings am I gonna feel when I get this job? And so I at that point in time, I don't know why these things held relevance to me, but I wanted a company credit card. I wanted a company cell phone. I wanted to travel for work, and I wanted to make the 68K a year, but I wanted uncapped commission. So I wanted to like I knew I wanted to do something with sales, and I had sold things periodically back and forth. And so, I was doing decent at that. So I'm like sitting there and meditating, and it was probably a good 3 months. And I get an email from an old Indeed.com resume, which is like this job site that you could post your resume on. But the resume I had posted was for a public storage management job that I had at the start of college when I was 20. From the Indeed resume, like got that job.
Yeah.
And I'm studying DNA, 12 helix DNA, because I learned about Sumerian history, Enki, Enlil, Nibiru, the Zechariah Sitchin books, the Anunnaki, was getting really big into like Sumerian cuneiform and learning, Enki and Enlil hybrid. They took and created hybrid humans because Nibiru was on an elliptical orbit, and so they didn't have an orbit like circular around the sun. They'd come into the solar system every 3,600 years, and they only go around the sun like once every 3,600 years. So they needed to mine gold for their atmosphere. And so that's why we worship gold today. That's why the Egyptians worship gold, because they're like, oh my God, these beings that we think are gods, hybrid created us. And we've got this now hybrid DNA, and the beings are like, all right, now we need you to mine gold for us, because it wasn't like gold had this value of money. Gold is the most conductive metal on the face of the planet. So their atmosphere was made of nanoparticle gold from when they were way out in the solar system. So I'm studying the DNA, doing the things, like really getting into 12 helix DNA and what that might entail, latent DNA within the causal body and the energy systems, full human potential. And this dude walks into the storage unit facility, and he's like, I'm like, what kind of unit would you, what kind of storage unit would you need, sir? He's like, I'm not here for a unit. I'm like, what? This guy's like crazy hair. He's got like vitiligo, like he's got white eyes and like a little white smile on here, but he's got like darker skin, like maybe Hispanic looking skin. Um, he's like, I'm here because you've been thinking about 12 helix DNA. I'm like, what? He's like, have you? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I have, but this is really weird. Like this guy's got like necklaces and like keys and like trinkets and lockets. Like, dude, I don't know how many things are around this guy's neck. Like crazy shaman looking dude. He goes, well, I can help you with that. And I'm like, you're scaring the shit out of me. So he's like, you should come to a drum circle. He's like, they call me the corn farmer that walks between the worlds. And I'm like, I'm 20, dude. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, give me your number. Like,
Yeah.
so he writes his number. I'm like, he leaves. I'm like, there is not a chance in hell I'm ever going to this dude's house. Like, no way. Like 3 days later, maybe same week, I'm walking into Subway 2 or 3 miles down the road, maybe to get a lunch. He's walking out of the Subway. He's got his little Subway. He's like, oh, hey, Brant. He's like, you're gonna come to the drum circle? And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, so I see him again down the road from where the public storage unit was. Um, and then probably another 3, 4 days later, the next week, he's up the street I'm getting gas and he rolls in this old Bronco with no back and it's full of stones, rocks, and he's getting firewood. And he's like, oh, I'm like, what? Or okay, like third time, like you walked into my work and knew about the DNA activation. You showed up at the subway, like, and my little brother ended up working at Subway. It's just weird synchronicity. And then you show up at the gas station with a truck full of rocks for the sweat lodge. I'm like, screw it. Like, like this is scary. I might die. Serial killer. I'm going to the drum circle, right? So I roll to the drum circle on Tuesday, and that's where this guy's got this like cool property, like kind of by the river over by this, like in the back end of this country club. You never would have known it was there, but it was there. And this dude taught me a lot of stuff about energy and spirituality. Um, Hopi and like Native American stuff, which when I was a little kid, I would always want to do my school projects about the Native Americans so I could go hang out with them in Daniels Park. And they had these like fire dances and ceremonies. So I'm like, I got pictures of me. I'll have to show them to you. Like I'm like 5, 6 years old hanging out with these chiefs, getting feathers. Like I'm a little kid, dude. Like so it kind of synced up. Like I've always been fascinated in that. And so I go to the drum circle. Dude's got like a sequoia tree, like if you know a sequoia, big old tree,
Yeah.
sectioned, and then it's an elk skin stretched over this drum. So you could fit 10, 12 people around this drum, no problem. And you go to this dude's little like cottage house, and there's just things on every shelf, on every wall, like tools and like I can't it looked like something from Star Wars or something, dude. It was crazy. And like I remember, I won't get too deep into it, but one time, like I was like, I had been going for some months or whatever, and Corn Farmer would say some crazy shit like, "Oh, no drum circle on Thursday. I got a journey to the outer planets. I got a meeting." And I'm like, old Corn's off his rocker, man. But now looking back, I don't think he was kidding, dude. I think he had a like he had a I don't think he was joking at all. And like that one time I was telling you on Solstice, one of the chiefs from one of the Hawaiian Islands came to drum with us and have like a private conversation with Corn Farmer. They like went for a walk and they were talking about some stuff because they've known that this stuff was going to be going on for a long time, for like decades and decades. The Hopi knew that this was going to go down. What's happening right now in the world and the mitosis of the planet and the 3D 5D split. It's like when a cell in your body divides, it's happening right now, millions of times per second for you. And it shakes. And then once it splits, this cell is the new cell that continues on and keeps Pete alive. It's 5D Earth, and the 3D cell lives for a little while longer, and then it eventually dies and gets absorbed by the body. I think we're going through this planetary mitosis right now, and you can see the energies, the break, the wall shifting. Like it's the two are very clear right now, for the ones who are awake and aware. But anyways. I remember one time, like Ben took me out back and was like, "Oh, opela tankashla wankawa," like saying all his Indian stuff. And he's like, he goes, I just said, he was standing there with me. It was after a drum circle, and there's a couple people like over by the drum and stuff. Beings of light that live in the clouds, please show Brant that the path is real. I know he's young. I know he's doubtful. I'm like 21 at this time. I've been drumming with him for like a year, maybe. And dude, like 100, 200 yards away, the sky starts spiraling into like a little tornado that doesn't touch the ground, and lightning strikes like a football field or two away from us. And I'm just like, chills. I'm kind of scared. It's kind of badass. I'm just like, okay, cool. And like, so I drummed with Ben for 7 or 8 years. His real world name is Ben. He's like, just call me Ben. Like, if we're out to eat or something, like, you don't tell people I'm the corn farmer that walks between the worlds. Call me Ben. So, and then when I was talking to him one day, he's like, "Hey, can you help me move a few things out of a storage unit? I gotta head to the mountains." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And ET phoned home or something, dude. Like he went to the mountains and his job was done.
Never saw him again.
I haven't seen years, like years.
Whoa.
Coolest dude. Yeah, man. Yeah, the corn farmer that walks between the worlds. It's so funny too. So I've told Alyssa all these stories, and I could tell she's looking at me like, like, okay, maybe not. So we go to Sedona to visit David Singer and Moira from Egypt, right? And my buddy Bo was living in Scottsdale. This was last year. This was May. And Alyssa has heard all like way more corn farmer stories than this, just all sorts of crazy shit. And we haven't talked about him in a long time. Like I'll tell a story on him, but the topic hasn't come up. And my buddy Bo used to run an Instagram called Truth Society, which just for like we were the kids 20 years ago in high school before or just out of high school, like saying all this stuff even then, like talking about it when we were 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And we sit down, we go to breakfast with Bo because I haven't seen him in years. We sit down at this place in Scottsdale before we head up to Sedona. And within 5 minutes of talking, Bo looks at me. He goes, "Dude, whatever happened to the corn farmer?" And Alyssa turns white because, like, this is like real world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I look at her and I'm like,
There you
"Yeah,
go.
yeah." Bo met the corn farmer. Crazy, dude. Crazy.
I love
Oh.
it though. He just went to the mountains and that's it.
I don't know what I don't know what he did up there, but he's up there or he went to the mountains.
He went right up. Far out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. Gosh,
So that's a good one.
that's a good one. Yeah. Oh man. So good. Well, listen, end of the year, December, like if you guys feel like come down, stay with us. I'll pick you up from the airport. We'll show you around. Like,
Are you
man,
going to
you're welcome.
Bali or what are you Roxy
No, we'll
said you
be
guys are going to
here.
Bali? Or are you guys
No,
gonna what's
we're
the
going to be
deal?
here. We're not going to Bali this year. We did that last year. It was hectic. The beaches are nicer here. I've worked out. Bali's overrated.
Yeah,
It's not
okay.
far. You can go there on the way home if you guys want to see Bali. No problem. We've got a buddy there, got a place for you to stay. Got everything you need in Bali, right in the action if you want to do Bali. But
Okay.
pop down here, hang here, and we'll like go do things.
Yeah.
I got all the good things to do and
Yeah.
like hang out. You know what I
Yeah, we
mean?
need
Like,
to
yeah,
I've never seen it, man. Alyssa has been there before, but I've never even been to Australia ever.
yeah, and I
So
think you'll love it.
I
Like
think so
I think
too.
you will. It'll be great. And we don't have anything on. We're probably going to. We were talking to Regina yesterday. We interviewed Regina Meredith and Lee Harris. Have you come across Lee Harris? He channels the Z's.
I was gonna say that name sounds
He's the
really
bald-headed
familiar.
guy, British,
Okay.
English,
Okay.
probably 45, something. I don't know how old he is. Nice. He's a real one. Like this. Once the recording was off, we were talking and I said, we can tell you are our type of people, you guys. It's like Regina's, you know what? She was Gaia bought out her network before Gaia even existed. They bought her out. She had, I forget what it was called, but the holistic network channel back before Gaia was a thing. They bought that out and sort of merged Gaia TV in with that, like Gaia merged in with James and Food Matters, and
Yeah.
they acquire. So she's been there since day dot. It wouldn't surprise me if she's a shareholder in Gaia or there's something going on.
Hmm.
I don't know that, but she's
Hmm.
good, right? Because she knows interviewed everyone, but she's
Yeah.
real as well. She'll go, oh, I just yesterday I was having a day. I went to In-N-Out Burger, had a root beer and some fries. I was like, bugger, it's still too hard. Lee's going, oh, I sometimes just go down to the pub and stand there with my brothers and drink beer and be normal for a while because I'm sick of being a channel.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, the guy's
man.
got 1 million people a month tuning in to his stuff. He's huge. He's
Oh, that's
sold out tour of
crazy.
Australia. He's like a big, big deal. So anyway, he gave us free tickets to his event. We're going to go down and see him in Brisbane, Roxy and I. And oh, fuck, I forget where I was going with that. Oh, we're trying to get interviewed with Regina in October. We might be going to take a group to Costa Rica in October. So
Yeah.
if we can make that happen when we're in LA,
Yeah.
we're either going to shoot up to you guys in Colorado to get the interview, or we're going to. So many people see us on Gaia now. It's like
Yep.
whenever I'm doing a
Good.
session, oh,
Good.
where'd you find us? It's like, oh, I saw you on Gaia.
Yeah.
And then that's always the same thing. It was like you guys were so like real and normal. It's
Yeah.
like
People
we
appreciate
like
that.
you were normal, but you were very open. You spoke openly and honestly about like yourself, your life, not just the generalities of principles. It's
Yep.
like this is what I went through, this is how I felt, this is how it applied.
Right.
It's like I think I told you about the mantis being. I was like lying there fucking on my ayahuasca journey, and there's this freaking praying mantis over me, like with these long fingers pulling shame and grief out of my stomach. And I like sat up and like looked. I was like, what the fucking hell? And it just kind
Yeah.
of sternly looked at me and was like in my head, lie back down. Well, it's like I was in trouble. Lay back down.
Yeah.
I got a mantis being before I got Pleiadians 2 nights later, and that's the first
Yeah.
time I'd ever like connected in
Well,
with that galactic
surgeon.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
surgeon. Oh, that
now
was
it's Lyran's,
first
by the
time
way.
before the Pleiadians.
Yeah. I think I had to get
Wow.
some work done before my Pleiadian connection was shown to me. It's like I was
Dude,
blocking it
I'm
from the grief.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I don't think I know. I'm gonna go down and do Ibogaine. Like I've kind of
Oh,
shifted
that's
on
what Jerry did first, who owns the retreat.
well,
He did that
you
first.
know me, like if you're gonna fucking go, go. So, yeah, it's that with this eclipse energy and stuff like that, like a lot of things are coming up between Alyssa and I where we're realizing like okay, like I carried some energy into the relationship, and sometimes it gets projected onto her, and it's not her fault. And so this resume is like a decade old. It's just been sitting there doing nothing. And I get this email. It's like this guy Puneet Gupton, which we're still friends on LinkedIn. He's a great guy. He's like, oh, I work for this hotel company. We're coming to the United States called Oyo Hotels, and we want to do job interviews with you, and we want to hire you. The starting pay would be 65K a year plus commission. And I'm like, at first, I'm like, scam, identity theft. I know how those Indians are. God bless you, Sri, but I know how they are, right? They're the original scammers. So I'm like, I'm getting screwed. Like they're gonna take my social security card and my ID, and some guy's gonna own a villa in my name somewhere in the world, and like the government's gonna come get me. All the things, all the questions. But then I remember like the meditation, like if you want to create something you never had, you got to step into the unknown. And so when the breadcrumbs show up, like you got to follow the breadcrumbs because most people will bring something through and it's the start of a beautiful manifestation, but it requires them to do something that's out of the norm and it's scary and they shrink back down and then they don't create it. So
That's
like, okay,
brilliant.
I'll have this second call. So take on the second call, and then I get to the third interview, and I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm going through the motions, but I'm still like, scammers, like totally gonna get scammed, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Identity theft. So I'm driving for Uber, and he goes, well, we need to get you on a call with our general manager for the Pacific Northwest. That's your final interview. His name's Alejandro Chauza. So I look him up on LinkedIn, and this guy's the GM of Uber for the Pacific Northwest. I'm like, breadcrumb. I drive for Uber, right? So I'll take the call, but I look up his LinkedIn and it shows that he's the GM of Uber, like general manager, Uber Technologies, Pacific Northwest, based out of Seattle. Here's his picture. Here's his stuff. So I get on this phone call and they're
You
going
must be
to his.
thinking these guys are good. That looks legit. you know?
Well, I was thinking, I was like, okay, like I can look this guy up, but I'm like, it doesn't say he works for Oyo Hotels. It says he works for Uber. But that was enough of a breadcrumb where I took the call. So I take the call and we're like on speakerphone. It was like no Zoom. Like this is like 10 years ago. I mean, they probably had conference calls and stuff. I don't think Zoom was around yet. But anyway, I'm on the cell phone He's, oh, Brant, this is Alejandro. We're going to offer you the job. And I like unload on this dude, like a whole asshole. And I'm like, if you're gonna try to scam me, at least come at me with somebody I can't look up on LinkedIn because I know Alejandro Chauza is the GM of Uber. So he FaceTimes me and it's him. He's like, Brant, it's Alejandro. I'm trying to hire you. I have not updated my LinkedIn. I am absolutely working for Oyo. Will you please fly to San Francisco next week for your training? Like, this is your job offer. I'm like, okay, cool. So, like, I go do that. I go do that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's great. And you gotta be really particular with these manifestations because you don't I just, I got everything that I wrote down and I wanted, but I was working for an Indian company and those guys have more work ethic like than three Americans. Like one Indian, so I'm working 7-day weeks. I am traveling all over. I got a secretary. Maddie's calling me at like 11 o'clock at night. Hey, you got a flight out of DIA at 5:15 in the morning. I need you there. You're going to Salt Lake City. Like we are grinding. We're like they'll work you 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days and you're on salary. So of course, like no, it doesn't matter. So within 3 or 4 months of that, I was like, well, if 65, if like this works. So I dropped back in. I'm like, at that point, I wrote $250,000 on my paper. At that point, I thought like if you can make 250 grand a year, that was all the money. Like I thought, oh man, you're living large if you're making, So that was like all that my mind could comprehend at that point. And I think I was like 31 at this point in time. Um, so I write 250K, maybe a little less travel, maybe like a regular work week, 40 hours, 50 is cool, but not 80. So I drop in, I'm doing the meditations, and I'm doing the chakra meditations, and I'm doing the pineal gland meditation. I'm doing all the stuff that I read in the book. And I did go kind of look on that one. I was like scrolling. And there was a job offering from someone I had a connection with. And it was for like to get into finance. And so, but the base salary was 250K. So I'm like, huh. So I click on it, and this my who came to be one of my biggest mentors in life for a little while, Tom. His sister was working at the firm. She called me. I got an interview. Went in there. It's like, where's your suit and tie? I'm like, I don't know. Like, so Tom liked me and Tom was cool. He's like, you're gonna have to go back to school. Like, you're gonna have to take all your tests, get all your licenses, because there's a lot of licenses that you got to get with FINRA to get into finance. And probably in Australia too, but in the States, you got to get your licenses first. So Tom is like, I'm in an interesting situation. I need somebody who's really personable, who can pass all these tests, but I'm trying to hire somebody not at an entry level at the firm. You're gonna like I got this corner office, you would get the other corner office, and you have a whole team that you're gonna build underneath you. So you're gonna have to be learning all this stuff, but hiring people, training people, building this team, doing all the things. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I fell into that and I started learning about money and how the world works and how macroeconomics works and geopolitics and how the IMF and the Fed and the central banks work and what families are behind them. And like most people have no clue what's really going on with money or what money even is or how the central banks work with printing money and learning markets, how to study markets and trends and what companies are good, what companies are mature, like what's coming down the pipeline, all these things. So that was just an absolute whirlwind of a situation. And to kind of like segue into how I got into what I'm in now is COVID had just started. Like we were hearing about this and that on the news, right?
Yeah.
So we hadn't shut everything down yet. But and I had bought some Bitcoin in 2017, and now we're in 2020, right? And it did well. I didn't really understand, but I was just I was like, I think I like this, like money that's perfect, that is tracked on a blockchain, like no one can corrupt it. No one, if you're not an idiot, no one can steal it. There's a finite amount. They can't like just print more of it. It's deflationary. It's not inflationary. Whoa, like what a concept. So we'd had a call. I was working at it's called Mass Mutual. I mean, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. There was a call with the CEO. His name is Roger Crandall, and they had drained their securities arm. So they were like selling life insurance, but they were selling like disability, but they had an assets under management arm. So it's kind of like a holistic, like strategic planning firm. But they made some bad trades in bad plays. So they like drained their securities arm. Not at my office, at all of Mass Mutual, like the whole company nationwide. So my Tom is on a call with Roger Crandall, and I've been chirping up about the Bitcoin. I'm like, I think this is gonna be it. Like it's future of money. It makes sense. Like, you can't talk about galactic consciousness in a financial services firm, but I promise you, the Galactics are not walking around with silver trinkets and paper money. Like you got a blockchain
Mm.
ledger. Like that's how they work. So anyway, Tom is like, okay, you drain your securities arm. Like you're trying to go to this hub and spoke model and force all of our agents to sell only whole life, which yields people 4.5% per year, but inflation's at 5, 6% right now. So you want me to have my agents in my office go sell people on a locked in loss based on where inflation's at? It looks like it's going to get worse, not better. Like that's not a solution. What do you have to say about that? And Roger Crandall's like, I don't know, keeps me up at night. And Tom's like, that is not an acceptable answer for the CEO of a huge firm to be giving. And then if you look in 2020, very quietly, Mass Mutual went and bought $100 million worth of Bitcoin. Very quietly, but they did it. You can Google it. It's there. Check it. So anyway, I had my buddy Mason, and we he had a through our friend Tom and through just like mutual friends, there was an opportunity to get into like not purchasing Bitcoin, but Bitcoin mining, where you own the machines that are solving the algorithms that are rewarded in Bitcoin. Almost like if you owned a bunch of, when you swipe your Visa card, Visa gets a fee for that.
Right.
They're going to validate the transaction, but they're going to take a cut. They're going to take a cut from the merch. So it's kind of like that, but instead of getting USD or Australian dollars or euros for validating a transaction or hashing a block, they call it, you get paid in Bitcoin. So I had this opportunity. I talked to some buddies, talked to a few people, and just like took a leap of faith and sent everything I had into Bitcoin mining. And that's kind of it's worked out. I mean, there's been its own trials and troubles and difficulties and whole mess of problems that come when you try to start your own business, like you guys know. But that's what kind of brought it here.
Wow. Was an it's like an evolution, right? Because it's part of you would have gone, well, I've had a 250 grand a year job once in finance with a reputable company. Someone else would hire me, but something lit you up about Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
particularly more than just Bitcoin, more about, let's call it, how you can mine it. I was reflecting even before we even got on the call, the fact that you live in Colorado, and that was big for gold mining back in the day. And not very
Hmm.
far from where I am is Gympie, and that was known for gold mining. And in our era, Bitcoin's like the new gold, right? This is what people
Hmm.
seem to be running around. So
Hmm.
with Bitcoin mining, if you were to put it very simply for people, let's just go back to that again. It is how exactly do you mine a Bitcoin? Just loosely
Well,
for
so
someone who doesn't know.
I think to describe it, you got to also add like why it matters. So you have a power aspect, whether it's pulling power from the grid or pulling power from natural gas, from flare sites. Like we like to take flare gas that's polluting the environment, burn it, run it through generators, like kind of do a green thing, clean up the
Yeah,
environment. Some people aren't as concerned with that, so they'll just run like off of big power stations or whatever. But you've got a cost of power. So you've got like what you're really mining is like a digital commodity that is directly tied to utility. that is extremely scarce. So as it runs out, the value systematically and programmedly goes up. So you've got small or large facilities. You've got computers, they're called ASICs, stands for application specific integrated circuit. So these computers do one thing. They mine Bitcoin. And the way that they do that is they solve algorithms. So each time transactions are trying to be processed, similar to like when Visa batches up 100 of their transactions and like, okay, this money goes here, this money goes here. It's all sitting there in the ledger, but
Mm.
the transactions need to close and the money needs to get where it needs to be. So same with when you hash a block in the Bitcoin network, you're just using Bitcoin and not USD or AUD or euros. And so the machines are every machine in the world is trying to find the solution to this algorithm. And it's all a global network. Every machine has to be connected to the internet. So there has to be internet stream, and every machine takes a decent amount of power. When one machine on the planet figures out that algorithm, it sends out a signal. Every other machine checks and makes sure that machine was right. And whoever owns that machine gets rewarded the Bitcoin for that block.
Oh,
So you basically have a global, decentralized system of payments that's running on extremely scarce amount of Bitcoin. Like there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. There's 40 million millionaires here. There's not enough Bitcoin for every millionaire to own one.
mm.
And so you've got this system that's huge. That's huge. There's plenty of dollars. If the dollar AUD goes bad, turn on the money printing machine. They'll print this much more AUD. It's not that things are getting more expensive. It's that your dollar's worth less because there's more of them. So when you have something that's capped, it adds a little bit more value. And in the process of mining, every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that gets rewarded to the miners per block cuts in half. And this is due to code. This is not like some government officials go into a back room and take a vote and launder a bunch of money that's your tax money and give it to these guys over here for, like their operas and plays and whatever agenda there. This is coded into Bitcoin in the beginning, and the code is immutable. So every 4 years, all the machines cost the same amount of money. In fact, you got to buy new ones. And the power price typically goes up a little bit, right? Like when was the last time we saw a decrease in utilities? You guys are getting hammered worse than we are. So you've got this power cost that's going up, and every time more machines, oh, huge lightning bolt. Every time more machines go up, can you hear that?
No, it's a thunderstorm, is it?
Oh man, it just shook the whole place. It's wonderful. Um, so you've got a cost basis, I guess, is what I'm trying to simplify here. And you're paying the same amount to produce this thing, but the amount that you receive cuts in half every 4 years. What happens to the price of oil if they cut the global supply in half today?
Up it
And it
goes.
stays,
Mm.
what happens to the price of oil if the
Up.
supply gets cut in half?
Yeah, up she goes.
Well, this is just simple economics. This isn't like
Mm.
what I love about it is like opinions don't matter. If you cut the supply of something in half, but it doesn't ever come back. You cut it in half, and then it stays there for 4 years, and then you cut it in half again, and then it stays there for 4 years, and you cut it in half again, and it stays there for 4 years. So if you look at these price peaks in Bitcoin, they happen every 4 years in December, about a year and a half after the halving event. And this all made sense to me getting into the mining thing. So I'm like, okay, we set up this power. We have to do a good job at that. We need some engineering skills. Like, we better figure that out. Luckily, my buddy Mason just had a facility in Calvert City. He was way ahead in the game than I was. I was super green. I didn't know anything, and he's a great guy. He's still a good friend of mine. I talk to him like pretty regularly. We met up in Miami and partied and done the things. So he kind of was, he gave me space, hosting space in his facility, and that's kind of how I started learning about this.
Wow.
So yeah, like in a nutshell, without spending another 10 hours on it, that's Bitcoin mining.
Far out, huh? What a journey. So now you're a Bitcoin miner, and the reality of what this looks like is, have you got like big sheds set up in different locations, and they they're full of computers, and they're used burning this gas to make electricity to run through these computers to solve these algorithms, to
Yeah.
at the end, if you solve the algorithm first and there's a certain number of them, then you get awarded the Bitcoin, you get the reward.
So nowadays, unless you have a massive operation, and even if you did, you join a mining pool. And so we're in a pool called Luxor, and it's all of these miners around the world. And so if you join a pool, you actually know that that pool has enough of the hash rate to where you're guaranteed stable revenue. So we know that we're going to get very stable revenue on a daily basis. But yeah, man, we're like stranded flare gas in the middle of nowhere. We got a contract with a publicly traded oil and gas company. So they'd be burning this gas off into the atmosphere. We take it and pipe it over to a big Jenny, like a generator, like a car engine, but a big one. And that thing burns the gas and then it sends power into like what would look like a shipping container. And it's just racked with machines. There's inflow and then outflow for the heat. And then we connect it to a Starlink, like thanks Elon, because we're in the middle of nowhere. The Starlink is what gives us the internet access to connect to the global network because you have to have internet access. But what's cool is like a whole nation's power could go out. And as long as there's some Bitcoin miner somewhere, the network stays stable, right? Like the entire European economy could collapse and it could go into the dark ages. Um, but as long as there's Bitcoin miners and internet somewhere in the world, the network remains robust and strong. So it's not like one nation's currency where all you need is a couple bad politicians to make some bad decisions. And all of a sudden your whole life's work is getting chopped in half when your inflation goes through the roof because they decided to print more money and steal a bunch of yours. You just got part of your soul stolen from you. And it was, and you couldn't even do anything about it, you know? So um, it's a lot more robust and safer, and it's perfect money because it goes up and down in value right now, but once we have another 5 to 7 years and it's a mature asset, if you look over time, it's actually just against the dollar or against the Australian dollar or against the euro. All it's going to do is go up in value against every currency because it's more valuable, it's more pure, it's incorruptible, you know, all of that.
Wow. So what an amazing thing to, and you know so much about it too. And you know what? You did a good job of explaining that. It's like I kind of didn't actually really know exactly what a Bitcoin was, how you mined it, or then, of course, the ethical implications, which was going to be one of my questions today. But you've answered that with the gas that used to go off into the atmosphere, and of course, in a way, making you non-reliant on the grid, because
Like,
sometimes people would go, oh, well, if there's a solar flash, that'll disappear. Or if if they shut down all the power grids in the earth, it'll disappear. Then you've answered that as well. So let me go even into a larger thing. Do you feel like this could be a reflection, this decentralization and this lack of being under control and the energy of control from, let me bring this back to like negatively polarized beings, families, structures, this freedom is a reflection of what's going on the planet right now with the war on consciousness and with all of us having more access to information and being more free to be able to think outside a controlled box. Do you feel like there might be a correlation between the two?
yeah, I think there's a huge correlation, and I think that this whole process is more organic than we realize because we're collectively 8 billion of us, the consciousness of the earth. So she's going through it right now. She's learning lessons of how she gave away her sovereignty, and she's learning lessons of her shadow. Technically these bloodlines and these families, that those bloodlines are just the shadow aspect of the Mother Earth that's being witnessed right now. These bloodlines are like the out of control ego of an entire planet, if you look at it in that sense. And I think as the planet's waking up, technology's moving forward, we're moving forward as a human species. There's probably, I know you guys are, I could say it here. I wouldn't say it in a lot of spheres. Not probably. There's absolutely a galactic influence on the planet at this point in time where, I think we maybe are probably getting some help from the star family, whether that's star seeds or anything incarnating. So yeah, I think this process is much more organic than we realize it is, and if you fix the money, you fix a lot of problems of society because if the money is corrupt and it benefits every politician, government official, state legislature, police officer, bank, the old system of the fiat currency and printing the money, it basically benefits a top down to everybody, and it just allows the individual to constantly have time and soul energy siphoned off of them. Because if you're 65, you're retired, COVID happens or whatever happens, and the Fed decides to go print, like we printed 50% of the US money supply, all 50% of all the US dollars in circulation were printed in 2 years and given away. So the inflation that we're seeing now is just the start of something that's going to play out for another 10 or 15 years. So you're 65, like you're retired. You got some money in the 401k. You worked really hard. You planned your whole life out. Let's say you did real well. You got a few million bucks. And then all of a sudden inflation hits and the value of everything, the value of the money goes down 30%. The price of everything goes up 30%. You can't, you just, without any, they just came and snatched part of all your work, all your intelligence, part of your energy, and that affects you and they're just printing it and giving it away. You know what I mean? So I
Mm.
think as we evolve forward in this, we realize, that this technology is probably given to us from the galactics and not just Bitcoin, but I think the entire quantum financial system that's we're about to transition into is probably given to us from the galactics in order to free us from being debt slaves to those families.
Which would reflect the shift in consciousness on the planet from third density, let's call it service to self, yeah, to fourth
Fifth,
density, unity consciousness, we're all one, fairness, equanimity,
sovereignty.
sovereignty. So blockchain, Bitcoin, in a way, it can be a tool for this.
Right, because in the Bitcoin system, it's a fair game for everybody. If you want to get it, you either have to buy it or you have to mine it, and you have to put in your value in your work, but it's global in the sense of like there's not AUD and there's not USD and euros, and no one government controls it. It's the whole world. Anybody in the world can get into this. It's fair game. So I think this is an important fact that I didn't get into before. So one Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million parts. So the decimal goes the other way, right? So like as this gets more and more scarce, and to break down the numbers, as of 2033, 99% of the 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist will have been printed. That will be in circulation. Right now, we're kind of in this Bitcoin gold rush. Like BlackRock has ETFs. Larry Fink just said today or yesterday that he thinks Bitcoin will overtake the US dollar as the global reserve asset. It's huge. So you have 99% of all the Bitcoin that will be mined by 2033, and the remaining 1% will be mined over the next 120 years. Right. So there's this window right now where like it's probably more risky not to own some of that than to own some of that. Um, because once it's all, you can't print more. The Fed can't vote and say, okay, we're going to change it from 21 million Bitcoin to 42 million. Nope. Like that amount is that amount. So what happens is when you have something that's so, it'd be like if they shut down all the gold mines and said, okay, what's out there is out there. Good luck. It'd be like if they said, hey, we're going to quit building houses in 2033. If you got one, good job. But there will never be another house built after this point. If you think about it in any other sense of the word, then it starts to make sense, as to why. But the cool thing is like you have 100 million of these Satoshis that makes up one Bitcoin. So in the future, we're going to be spending like 0.00001 of a Bitcoin, and that'll be like possibly a car. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Because if you look statistically, because I like the numbers because the numbers don't lie. 6 or 7 years ago, you could buy the average median home in America, like 600K, and it took about 600 Bitcoin, 640 Bitcoin to buy that home. 7 years later, it takes 6 Bitcoin, 7 Bitcoin to buy that home. What's going up more in value?
Mm, right.
And
Yeah.
it's happening very, very quickly.
So, back looping back, just thinking about this, your early years and your interest in crystals,
Oh
ancient
yeah,
Egypt, alchemy. Is this like, from a metaphysical perspective, a way of creating wealth or something, but in this case, from energy and computation and creating it's alchemy, right? But it's
it's
this,
alchemy.
it's where this level of where the level of consciousness we're at now, this is alchemy, but for this level of technology that we're at right now.
Right. Even Henry Ford even said it 100 years ago. Currency and money should be directly tied to utility because it's a constant output of energy rather than like some rich guys are going to print this and rob us blind. So yeah, I think it is alchemy. And what it does is it doesn't benefit anybody at the top here or there unless they have a ton of money and they align themselves with it. But it allows people who maybe are like middle class or even lower class. It allows people to participate in something, and as long as they're patient for 4 years or 8 years, to sort, at least for the time being, for the next decade or so, maybe seven or 8 years or so, to participate in this and sort of like expand their lifestyle a little bit and expand their wealth quite a bit. And it's just a system that was designed for everybody, and particularly regular people, where the other system was designed to benefit only the people at the top. They create the laws, they create the rules, and they sort of just siphon energy off of us, which is not 5D at all.
Yeah. So if we were to infuse a spiritual principle into this chat about Bitcoin and blockchain and how spiritual principles tie in with this, it's certainly, well, leaning towards what we talked about earlier, things being more equal, to be more unified, it being, let's call it more fair, under less
Very
control.
transparent, honest. Everything in the blockchain is public knowledge. Every transaction that's ever happened and will ever happen will be there forever. So Bitcoin's kind of like the Akashic records for money. You know, 'cause so
Yeah.
if you could mess it, you could do something bad 7 years ago. It is there on the blockchain in that block, that transaction from wallet to wallet forever. So what's nice is like nothing can happen behind closed doors. Nothing can happen on computer screens at the heads of these bankers' meetings where the money is not even in the bank anymore. It's just there on a screen, man. The money's not in the bank. It hasn't been for a long time. Like, if everybody went to the bank to pull their money out tomorrow, the banks would have to close their doors and lock their windows and hope there wasn't a full revolution. The money's not in the bank. So it's transparency and honesty as well with the blockchain. As far as transparency of transactions, you have exchanges and you have people that try to do nefarious things. And that's a different conversation. But the blockchain in and of itself, yeah, honesty, purity, transparency, sovereignty, um, all those things.
Yeah, because there's an interesting correlation between the two, right? Well, we sort of started off talking about that. And interesting what's going on in your country at the moment as well. Like some people seem to have resistance to the transparency and the openness and the exposure to like blatant waste and corruption. And when it gets exposed, they seem to get triggered that which I don't understand. I would have thought that it's a good thing, but I see the news like everyone else would. There's people rioting and holding up signs and going, "This is terrible, this is terrible," where it seems like government waste and what really we know is fraud and corruption is being exposed, yet people push back. It's strange.
It almost feels like a Stockholm syndrome type thing, where they've been so indoctrinated by the media, and they will turn on that TV and they will listen. They think that anything that screen says is true, and they chose their favorite team, so they chose the team on the left and not the team on the right, which I get it. Like politics, most people derive their political views from their parents and their grandparents. They don't even really have their own anyways, and I understand that and hereditary things, but anything that happens that isn't associated with their news channel or their stream of information is widely rejected. But yeah, it blows my mind. There has been a lot of people sort of waking up because of this and kind of just realizing like maybe I shouldn't be left or right. Maybe the left wing and the right wing are part of the same bird. Maybe we should figure out what that is. So there has been a lot of that, but then what you see on the media and stuff is these instances of like people are setting Teslas on fire that they bought 4 years ago with their liberal friends when Elon was a liberal hero because he was saving the environment. And now a couple years later, he's telling them where their tax dollars went and they're setting their car on fire. It's nutty, man.
Well, I saw a Mark Twain comment, a quote a day or two ago where it said, "It's easier to fool people than to show people that they have been fooled." It's like
Yeah,
when they've been fooled, they don't want to admit that they've been fooled. Like they'll resist that a lot
yeah,
more, you know.
yeah.
Anyway, it's an interesting reflection on how people handle this whole conversation in and around, I think, placing power outside themselves and having trust in, let's call it Big Brother. And
Yeah.
in fact, we could call it trust in big politics, big business, big media, big pharma, right? And those four are all, it seems like, in bed together and they use the same tools of lies, corruption, coercion, etc., all to make themselves wealthy at the expense of the mass.
At the great expense of the mass. Yeah. I think obviously there's always been societal structures and leaders and government, but the extent that those entities and more have gone to for it's not even about money anymore. It's about power and control and domination. When you create biochemicals and call them medicine and force people to do things and put those things in their bodies. I mean, it's I guess it's always darkest before the dawn, but yeah, you start to really what's nice is you're starting to see these structures. It's a house of cards. So when it crumbles quick
Mm.
and it's happening.
And so for the people who are awake and open, right? Let's jump to the ones who realize it's all part of I love what you were saying. It's actually not one wing or the other, the left or the right. It's one bird. We're all one, unity. I love that from this, we've got a choice on what we do with it. And it's like the number one thing we can do for the planet and our environment and closer to home, friends, family, etc., is to be the best version of ourselves in our day-to-day life and reflect that out. And the ripple effect, we can each as individuals have an effect. And is that what collective waking up is about, do you feel?
Yeah, I think just like, you guys talk about it a lot, like the heart-centered consciousness versus like the Christ consciousness or the oneness, or it comes from the heart and it's love. And trust me, man, day to day, I get caught up in my head a million times, just like everybody else. And I meditate in the morning and I'll take a breath and take a break and have a breath. And like, things start chirping a little bit too much up here. I just got to sit down and say, like, we're not going to move. We're not even going to open our eyes, Brant, until we're back in the heart. Because if we're operating from this heart-centered consciousness, then some of these problems start to alchemize themselves. And the more you see it going on right now, you guys have in your community, in the world, like the Gaia TV community, some of these spiritual communities, the more everybody opens their heart, like the sillier all these shenanigans seem.
Yeah.
Things that were acceptable 20 years ago, maybe to some people, it's like you look at it now and it's like, has that elephant been in the room the whole time, or did it just show up here? It's like, no, you just developed the consciousness to see that the elephant was there. It's been there the whole time. But yes, I think and if you look at it too, what you just said is really powerful because that heart, the love and the unity consciousness and all that, as we raise our vibration on the planetary level, these things that are coming up it's actually beautiful because they're coming up. We're like doing planetary shadow work with the Epstein stuff and the government corruption and what's going on with your guys down there, some of your tax policies and like they're robbing you blind. And but it has to come up. It's showing up big time and being witnessed because it's no longer a vibrational match. And we can't alchemize a shadow that we don't know exists. So we have to transmute it, but we have to see it first. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see it. And then it's even harder to not go into the head. And it's like, oh my gosh, the monster's there. I didn't even know it was there before. And you want to go fight with the monster. But it's like, no, like if you really just if you really just transmute that and alchemize it, it's just like inner work. You can't resist a part of yourself. You just have to transmute it and love it like it's a little baby that never got held, and one by one these things are going to come up, and one by one that's when the light team has to lock in and like grab the shield, grab the sword, and don't get caught up in the head and get the job done.
Yeah. I'm noticing the messages in a lot of different, as Bashar would call them, permission slips, or a lot of different, let's call them channelers, or a lot of different sources of information that people look to, totems, even, let's call it, if they're connected in with the earth. A lot of them are talking about that process that you just talked about, shining the light on the darkness. Because once you shine the light on the darkness and you see it for what it is, right? We'll go back to law of one, Ra, know thyself. It's
Right.
like once you admit, oh goodness, I have been like this, or there is that part of me, and then you forgive yourself, or you forgive the person, or you forgive the activity that may be going on through the shining the light on it, but then realizing I'm not going to banish it. I'm not going to scold it or go, I'm going to not condone. By no means are we condoning this, but we're not going to allow it to go on anymore. But realize that the top one, see the infinite in it all, which is why we got the lesson in the first place, which is for all of us that last bit when you can truly realize that a lot of this is doing you a favor, even though it
Mhm.
might trigger initially. That's when we're starting to move towards that unity.
Yep, absolutely. And that's so much harder to realize in the day when you're in the middle of it. Like I'm sure something's going to happen in my business or in life or whatever, and it's tough to sit and say that when you're in the middle of it, but it's true. And I think when you are in the middle of it, the sooner you can say, okay, like what's the lesson? What is this trying to teach me? What's the how what base metals are going to turn to gold on this one, then you hit the event horizon where you're kind of coasting down the other side of maybe what would be a difficult experience.
Yeah. And, as we move from third chakra, solar plexus, our need to control and to have certainty in outcomes, I'm finding more and more trust being a lesson swirling around at the moment when I realize it'll all work out for the best. The higher self's got my back, and it's like, when the hell's it going to show up? Because yeah. It doesn't look real good right now from where I'm sitting. But hang on, don't go to fear. If I go back to fear, well, I'm down on the root chakra again. Maybe I should work harder. Oh, that's what. No, no, hang on. There's that. And you got to keep yourself like those lower three chakras and the energy they represent. They're gold in helping us to be able to move into the heart. They're the tools. It's not they're the bad ones and we've got to get to the heart because that's the good one. The catalysts for our soul, they're all that the root, the sacral, the solar
Yeah.
plexus, and the principles they represent in our life. That's
Yeah.
how we're going to move to that.
Yeah. I think when I'm feeling stuck in something, it's like, okay, is there something that I'm holding on to that I'm supposed to let go of, that I'm clinging to, because you only got so much space. So is there something, a thought process or an action or a modality or whatever that I need to let go of, that I'm refusing to let go of? Or is there, because the time is accelerating, things are going so fast right now on the planet, or is there something that's trying to show up for me that I'm just not acknowledging that's really trying to show up? And it's usually one of those two things. Like I'm either holding on to something that needs to be let go. I don't mean a person or anything like that, or it could be anything energetically, or I'm just like something's trying to show up for me and I'm like really not trying to hear it. And that's most of where like my stagnancy has been, where it's really hard. I'm like, I think I know everything, and then something's trying to show up, or like this person says something, and I'm like, I kind of like write it off. I'm like, oh, and it may have been some huge spiritual trinket where I'm like, I didn't really get it at the time, and then like a couple months down the road, I'm like, that dude was speaking fire. I wasn't in the place to hear it. So that usually helps at least a little bit.
Yeah. And it's good for people perhaps who are going to find this conversation through, let's call it a different keyword, and be more interested in like the Bitcoin mining, and your journey from, I love it, the blue Subaru, right? My parents had a blue Subaru as well. I love that you put that little bit of extra in there. But from the blue Subaru, right, to a millionaire, right, self-employed, Bitcoin miner, traveling around the world, like doing great work and working on yourself as well. We can navigate between the two worlds. Sometimes people have a preconceived idea that too much abundance or too much success could be bad or steer them off their path. But often what it can actually really be is a reflection of a person who is aligned and listening because things
Yeah.
flow. We're creator beings, right?
Yeah, I think one, the more value we're going to be able to create for others, the more value we're just naturally going to have. And I think we gotta, that's another 3D construct is we always want to put things as a light or a dark, a right or a wrong, a good
Mm.
or an evil. But money is just energy. It's just energy. So if you get more money, it's like you got an amplifier for your guitar. Like whatever you're gonna do is just gonna be louder. So if you're a good person and you get a bunch of money, you're gonna take care of your friends, you're gonna take your family on trips, you're gonna probably give to some charities, I don't know, build some water wells in Africa, like make sure everybody has like basic human needs. If you're a pretty good person, you get some money, you're just gonna be a better person. If you're a piece of shit and you get some money, you're gonna be a bigger piece of shit. But like money is just energy. It can flow however we want to make it flow. So I think that's a good thing for people to think, like, what part of me doesn't feel like I deserve this, Or for a lot of people, what part of me doesn't even feel like I need to be making ends meet? What part of me, like, Alyssa, she notices it, but like she will wait until something is on sale, marked down 6 times, and then she'll go buy it. Like she will go to the thrift store. Oh, I got these jeans for $3, but like, I'm like, I will buy you something nice, but I need you. You said this the other day on a call. I need you to buy you something nice because you have to be worth it for you. Like, and but yeah, I think that should help, and abundance is really, I think it's just a feeling. I think you tune in and feel abundant, and then, but the hard part is for that abundance to actually show up, we're going to have to do some things that we've never done, and we're going to have to maybe take a couple steps. We're going to have to step into the unknown because all the things that I've been doing have led me to where I'm at today. So if I'm trying to generate abundance, I got to one, tune into that frequency, and then three, I got to be ready to say yes to a lot of things. And one of those things that, is going to lead me down the trail of the breadcrumbs that takes me there.
Yeah, I love what you said about the breadcrumbs. Yeah, you never see the path lit up all the way to your destination. You know, the headlights of the car, they light whatever it is, 50 or 100 meters ahead. Say 50 meters ahead is all you can see. And you
Yeah.
just based on that, you can just keep going, and you're never quite sure if you're going to get there or not. That's the trust thing that I've been working through at the moment. And
Yeah.
it's like the bigger the bigger the impact, the more you're attached to it, the more there's something inside. But I would really want it to happen. But of course, I'm going to allow. But God, I really want it to happen, and I dance between that, and I
Yeah.
smile that I catch myself doing it, which in and of itself is a beautiful thing. The fact that you see yourself applying the spiritual principle, and you can laugh and go, oh, shivers. And I know I should just let go and go, oh, that or something better. But that's easier said than done when you really want it to happen.
Way easier said than done. Way easier said than done. I like the quote where it's like, stay tuned into the vision of what you want because that's important. If you've got a passion or you want to bring something to the world, you stay locked in on that. You stay locked in on the destination, but you remain very, very flexible on how you get there because the path that is going to take you to that vision is probably not going to be a straight line, and there's going to be roundabouts and mountains and mudslides and rainstorms and hurricanes or cyclones, whatever you guys got down there. The path that's going to get you there looks nothing like what you think it looks like.
Yeah. We all
And
want
if
the
we're locked
straight
in on the
road.
path, Yeah, we want the straight road with no hills, no speed bumps, no potholes, no nothing. So I think the only place, we have this passion and this vision, and it's like, but then we think we know how the journey should look, and it's like, no, the higher self's gonna gonna take you where it needs to take you, and it's really not what do I want to manifest. It's like, who do I have to become to have that, to get that? Because what I want, I don't have right now. And if the bigger the vision, the more evolution that I have to go through as a being to arrive there. It's
Mm.
probably gonna involve some things that are not sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly, exactly. Well, listen, brother, I appreciate. I know we've gone a bit over time here, but was with so many good things coming up and deep insights into life, business, Bitcoin, the blockchain, alchemy, and then spiritual practice day to day. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with us all. And listen, continued success in all your ventures. Been great
Yeah,
to have
thank
you on.
you. Thank you for having me. And we'll see you at your 40th birthday in Bali here in a couple months.
Sounds great to me, brother. See ya.